Other people will say this stuff, and I'm like, look, I am game with this. I want to start something, and I'm hoping that this event will be encouraging to a lot of people that are wanting to start getting into agriculture with the little money they have. Start something, grow Nigeria. Forget the fact that I'm here. I'm also doing something back home. Grow Nigeria. Whatever you're doing here is to come back home and try to help my people. I keep saying my people because that's the way I talk. To help my people eat local, fresh, and indigenous vegetables.
Yes.
Like a lot of talk right now.
No, but it's a beautiful one, and I'm very appreciative of that. Like I feel like with the resources, whether human capacity resources or even land and expertise that we have no business with food insecurity in Nigeria. We
Right.
have no business with having our children impoverished, malnourished and things
Right.
like that. We have good arable land, and we have hardworking people.
Correct.
So for me, it's like if there's a reorientation, a reprogramming towards what it is, I think more people would gravitate towards it. And people like yourself, they're already doing so much within that space. But I
Correct.
just think that there's not so much of it on the media as much as we have arts and culture, as much as we have fashion, as much as we have fintechs and things like that. I think more importantly, we want to have more of things like this and people seeing that, okay, this is also a viable thing. And that's why we're having these conversations.
Thank
And with that being said, I think I'll just sort of introduce you so that people know who exactly we have on today on on this episode of the podcast. And so we're just talking about greenhouse farming today, how from setup to sustainability and profitability. And guys, our guest today is no other than Mr. Endurance Peter Ojo. So Mr. Peter is an innovative entrepreneur and agronomist that is based in the US and with key operations in Edo State. So guys, even though he's based in the US, he has something rooted back home in Africa. So yeah, he's the CEO and managing director of Market Price Vegetable Farms Limited. He oversees the constructions of over 132 greenhouse. Wow. Production sites and 8 greenhouses and is expanding to include 32 additional greenhouses, 7 fish ponds, poultry pens to serve both domestic and international markets. So, guys, if you're in Nigeria, you're interested in setting up a greenhouse, Mr. Peter Ojo is your guy. Mr. Peter has a bachelor's in microbiology from Benson University, a master's in plant science from Tel Aviv University in Israel, is currently pursuing a master's in environmental planning and management from the University of New Orleans, Springfield. Prior to founding Market Price Limited, he's a committed advocate for sustainability. He's also the founder of Save the Planet initiative to promote eco-friendly practices. Mr. Ojo is a devoted family man, happily married with a daughter, and he's balancing his career, professional achievement with personal commitment. He remains dedicated to fostering sustainability, particularly in agricultural practice that uplifts local community and sets the stage for international success. With that being said, Mr. Peter, welcome once again to the episode. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank
Thank
you.
you. What you said makes it feel as though makes me feel as though I've done a lot of work, the way you put it. But I'm appreciative. I'm thankful.
Yes, you have. Do you know what it is to? And so, guys, he just said, okay, I just said Market Place Limited, right? Much more than they producing vegetables. He's also into constructions of greenhouse. And like I read out from his bio, he has done 130 a lot. That's a whole lot. And trust me, that's just give you much more insights to the kind of person that we have on today's episode. And he's going to just be sharing with us on how, as a Nigerian, if you're looking at going into that, what are the things to look out for, how to be sustainable and how to be profitable. Because it's one thing to be sustainable, it's another thing to be profitable. Because
Right.
if you're not profitable, you won't be sustainable. Very
Correct.
soon you pop up shop and you stop doing it.
Correct.
So My very first question to you is, what exactly is greenhouse farming, and how does it sort of differs from like the regular traditional farming?
So, thank you for the question. So, a greenhouse setup, a greenhouse structure, or a farm, is it's a glass house or a net house that can house crops and grow them. It's a
Mhm.
protected environment, more or less, right? The temperature, humidity, the water, everything is controlled in that space, right? And crops grow very nicely there. The operational systems in the greenhouse is basically for the irrigation systems that you use to administer the water to the crop. More or less precision agriculture, right? And you can you can do it in two ways. You can do the soilless, or you can do it in a soil kind of way. All right, that we can explain later. But basically, that's what the greenhouse is all about. The greenhouse is a setup that is a controlled environment where crops are grown for consumption.
Wow, wow, wow. So thinking about it, it also in a way, I think it also in a way it's part of like circular economy, because what you just said with precision, there's a lot of reduction of waste.
Correct.
Unlike the regular let's say for irrigation, for instance, the regular traditional method, people will just sort of sprinkle water
Yeah.
everywhere.
Right. 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 So
And so what
one of the way it differs from the conventional agricultural practice is that it's in a controlled environment, right? And
mm,
it's a lot of precision in the production.
yeah,
But in a conventional setup, you have the crops growing in an open space,
yeah,
and you don't get to control a lot of the factors that optimize production. Right. For
mm,
instance, inside a greenhouse, in a glass house, which is not something we use in Nigeria. I beg your pardon. I don't think any farm uses a glass house in Nigeria. I think it's
yeah,
a waste of money for our region. For a glass house, for instance, if you have to grow there, you have to regions that are cold, for instance, you have to control
mm,
the temperature inside the greenhouse to suit the production of the particular crop variety you're growing, right? Let's come back home, Nigeria, right? In a Nigerian kind of setup, we use a plastic cover or a solari cover for the top covering to prevent water from coming inside the greenhouse from the rains,
yeah,
and we cover the sides of the structure with treated nets, right? This net helps to prevent external pests from attacking the crop and causing disease or killing them,
mm,
right? And
yeah,
sometimes when the temperature gets really high, we use something called a shade net, right, of different percentages to cover the top of the greenhouse while
okay,
the plastic cover is still there, to prevent the intensity of the sunlight from affecting the plant body. This time around, we're talking about the leaves, right?
yeah,
Um, 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 so as to reduce the amount of evaporation from the soil, and to
yeah,
control the amount of evapotranspiration from the plant body itself. So these are various ways to control. And for the water part, for the irrigation part, it's precision, precisely done in that you control the amount of water you give to the crop. If I want to give, for instance, if I want to give a total of 1,000 liters of water in a day for one greenhouse, I have a flow meter that tells me, look, in the morning you need to give 333.33 liters of water, right? I'm saying this from experience.
yeah,
33.33 liters of water in the morning. In the afternoon, you give this, and in the evening, you give this. But all of this is totally dependent on what the temperature is saying inside the,
mm,
and what the humidity is saying inside the greenhouse. So it brings us to technology. We have a humidity and temperature data logger that you put inside the greenhouse,
mm,
temperatures, right? For instance, when the humidity gets to about 75%, you need to start giving your irrigation for that day. So you turn on the irrigation. But if when the humidity is 80, 85, 90%, it means it's slightly cloudy outside, you don't give your irrigation, because at that time
mm,
evapotranspiration is not enough, all right, for you to give that. If you're giving water and nutrition, you will just be wasting it. So, but for the open field setup, I'm sorry, For the conventional agricultural practice, that's not the case, right?
Yeah.
You just look at the crop and like, I think it's going to need water now. And you start giving water, right? You don't really get to understand how the plant is feeling, what the plant wants at this time.
Yeah.
Because literally, we're plant doctors, right? But
Yeah.
the greenhouse farm operators are more, detailed oriented when it comes to plant nutrition and plant care and the administration.
Yeah, I like it when you said like you guys are like as an agronomist, you're like a plant doctor. I
Mhm.
remember visiting your farm probably 2, 3 years back, and you're just giving me like illustrations like, oh, if the leaf is like this is like okay, the nutrient that might be lacking,
Right,
and you were like, oh, we add the nutrient to the tank, then the tank
right.
supplies it directly.
You
I was
remember,
like,
right?
yeah, I remember those things. I was like, okay, this is really good because with that, you would not have a lot of weeds around like the
Correct,
conventional farming. So a lot of things are just sort of minimized
correct.
resources, energy, and time. And it was, I think, even that day I'd seen some of your guys doing a bit of transplanting from like the nursery to. I
To
was
the
like,
greenhouse itself after
yeah,
development.
I was like, oh my god, this is. It was such a beautiful sight to. It was just such a beautiful sight to behold. Trust me,
Thank
it
you.
was just
Thank you. We
such.
make agriculture fun and we try to make our plants happy.
Yeah,
That's the truth.
exactly. And that's like one of the reasons why I do what I do because I feel like a lot of young people, particularly, they think when they hear agriculture, the thing that comes to mind for them is cutlass and hoes.
Right,
Being on the sun, all very sweaty and all that. But like you mentioned, in some climes where the greenhouse is actually like a glass house, I think maybe because of like the temperature or something, it doesn't feel like you're farming. I've seen some clips, and especially those kinds of houses where they use some kinds of light to grow
right,
vegetables or something.
right.
It doesn't look tedious or stressful. It looks very fun and interesting. I was like,
That is correct. And the
we need
environment,
that over here.
is good for both the plant and for the
Mm,
people that are taking care of this plant, right? And there's one thing we believe that when you have staff and they are not happy, maybe with the way the environment is too hot and all of that, that's one of the things that the greenhouse does for you, controls the temperature. When they are not happy, they are not when they are angry, there's transference of energies. The energies from the hands that they use to grow this crop.
oh my
Because
god.
this is what we believe. And when the crops perceive that, they don't grow the best you want them to grow. That is the truth. And when you came to my farm, you saw the way the plants are being properly taken care of. The staff,
Yeah,
the plants are happy, and they'll give me as much money that I want. Okay, and I'll be
yeah,
happy at the end of the day. And when I'm happy, I pay more salaries. I take care of the crop. So it's like a circle, in
yeah.
one.
Yeah, I think at that time when I even came, I'd seen that you had invested some bell peppers in
No
the
peppers, right?
crate.
Right.
Yeah, you had some tomatoes on the vertical lines, and you were just showing me. I was like, this thing of energy you just mentioned, I really didn't know that it was that deep. So there's a state of mind you have to be in for the crop to actually.
Give you what you want, exactly.
Wow,
One
that's interesting.
of the things I learned from my studies in Israel.
Oh wow. Probably that's why maybe most of the open field plants, like the conventional way, are not doing well because sometimes those guys are working under the sun and they're angry and they're
It's a
just tilting.
variety. It's a variety of factors, right? It's a variety of factors.
I'm just saying, maybe,
Yeah, I agree.
maybe.
I agree with you on that.
Fantastic. So my next question is like, what's like why is greenhouse farming becoming increasingly important in Africa, especially in tackling food insecurity and even for climate change issues? So why is it important?
Well, I think it's like you already the last one of the last things you said is climate change. So
Yeah,
one of the big problems we're having in the world today, even if a lot of people don't believe it, is that climate change is real, right? With that, it comes with instability the weather patterns that is not
weather.
anymore.
Mm,
Farmers might be preparing to plant this month, and the month they are preparing to plant and grow their crops for a period of time, it
yeah,
continues to rain or it does not rain at all. And you find
yeah,
sometimes it gets really cold, and these things are not good for plant growth, right?
mm,
So a lot of farmers start to think about, look, what are alternative ways, especially in Nigeria, what are
yeah,
other ways we can start, growing our crops to make them better? Okay, that's where the advocacy came in. That look, we need to start controlling the environment since we no longer understand weather patterns. We need to
Yeah.
start growing crops in an environment where we can grow year round. Plus, the
Mm.
fact that there is hunger in the land, people
Yes.
want more food, right?
Mm.
If farmers can only grow at a specific period of time, right?
Mm.
There's some crops you can store in silos, for instance. Other crops you
Mhm.
can store for a rainy day, right? But there's some crops you cannot. Tomato is something we use every time, year round. Bell pepper
Yes.
is something we use year round. Cucumbers, what we use year round, but we can't grow these crops during the rains in an
Yeah.
open setup. So
True.
the farmers are now like, look, um, let us look for a way to do this. So they found a way to do this, which is the greenhouse setup, especially in Nigeria. Okay, why don't we take this technology, bring it into the country so that we can grow crops year round? And again,
Mm.
everybody wants more money. The open
True.
field setup creates a lot of avenues for pest and disease to attack crops, right? Thereby
Yeah.
reducing productivity and profit is on the minimum. But for a
Yeah.
greenhouse setup, the environment is better controlled, even if not 100% for those people
Mhm.
that are using that uses the greenhouse to operate, but uses the soil system of production. Like I said in the
Mhm.
beginning, soilless and there's a soil. For those of them that use the soil system of production, you cannot control the disease you find in the soil, even if you
Yeah.
try to do it the best way. But this disease, the diseases, they are still there. All
Sometimes,
right.
yeah.
Exactly, especially for tomato that is that sensitive. Okay.
Mm.
That's why using systems like the soilless system where you use aeroponics, hydroponics, all right, this and using of cocoa pits, coconut
Mm.
shaft, this system comes
Yeah.
in. They are inert, no form of no disease. There is no nutrition in it. Whatever you're giving is 100. The nutrition you're giving, the input is 100 by the farmer. Okay, so
Mm.
these are the advocacies, right? That look, we need to find better ways to grow food for our people so that there is no hunger in the land, so that we can also increase productivity and make good money. Okay, so
Yes.
this is why we're gradually getting an increase in the use of greenhouses in Nigeria, and it works because it's
Mm.
work. Other farmers now start to see the benefit in it and they started getting into it automatically.
Mm. Fantastic. Fantastic. So, still on the subject of still greenhouse, like what are like the key factors like we need to consider when setting up a greenhouse, especially for first-time farmers and people that have limited resources?
Okay, two parts of this question. The first part is location. Location is very,
Mm.
very
Okay.
important. I see that there are I've actually okay, one of the things that we do, I don't want to talk about anybody. One of the things that we do before we build for anybody is to first of all we need to understand your location. So we ask a bit some questions about the location, but that is not even enough. You would need to invite us to your location to see your site. We'll take water sample, we will
Mm.
we will take soil sample, take to the lab to test the soil and the water, and we check the topography of the area. We check the wind direction. This is going to help us understand the placement of the greenhouse. Okay,
Yeah.
that's one of the things we check. We check how the sun is coming, the direction of the sun to the area. That's going to determine how the radiation we get into the greenhouse and give us optimal production. Okay, these are
Mm.
some of the concerns. These are some of the things we check. It's not just to run a greenhouse company and say, okay, you want to build greenhouse, I'll be okay. Well, this is the amount, and that's that. So this information helps us. Like I said, we customize the greenhouses we build for people. This information
Mm.
helps us understand, okay, based on the wind, this is the placement, this is how the greenhouse is going to be placed. This is the
Yeah.
kind of pipes we're going to use. Is it 2
Mm.
mm by 2 inch or is it 3 mm by 2 inch? Like this, so these are some of the information that determines what we build, and the price is not fixed, right? Because the location and the factors we find in that location will determine what the cost for the greenhouse is going to be at the end of the day. Okay, some people would say that, no, you're using, I think you're wasting money on these materials. I'm like, yeah, it's my reputation at stake. If I build a
Yeah.
greenhouse lapses at the end of the day, it's going to be on me that, look, this guy don't build good greenhouses. So I'd rather do the
Yeah.
than to do piece of shit. I'm sorry for my use of language. Okay, so these are some of the factors that determine the setup of the greenhouse. All right, the soil is a very important part of it because the soil will help us tell you, advise you, look, we think you shouldn't use a lot of fertilizers for this period of time, being that the
Yeah.
soil already has sufficient amount. What you're going to be supplying to the soil will just be to augment. The reason
Mm.
so that you don't destroy the soil structure because inorganic fertilizers are salt. 100 is salt, and those salt, when you use it a lot on the soil to grow your crops, the crops will take them up. But after a
Mm.
while, it affects the soil structure. The salinity in the soil will become too much. The amount of salt content in the soil
So,
becomes too much. Then it affects your production. Maybe after 3 cycles of production, you want to grow again. Your production becomes affected because the crops will not be doing as much as they're supposed to be doing. You get me? So these are some of the factors. The second question will be that you're talking about the cost now for people that don't have so much money
yeah,
to
like
spend.
first time farmers that have limited resources.
Okay,
But from
first time.
what you have said, well, what you have said, I don't think limited resources can work.
Well, look, uh,
I don't think
look, I'm a
the all
realist.
the analysis, the testings,
I'm I'm
nah.
a, I'm a realist. So the thing is, um, I understand the situation in Nigeria, and I know that we have a lot of farmers,
Yeah,
especially in those states, because I'm quite passionate about my
yeah,
people, my own people.
yeah.
So there are other ways. What I've explained to you right now is best case possible, right? For a
Yeah.
standardized
Practice.
greenhouse, right? But there are other ways to go around it. Okay,
Mm.
two things. I'll give an example. The way I started my farm, I started with growing in open field. It was
Oh,
difficult.
wow.
I started growing open field because I was real to myself. Like, look, this is the money that I had. I don't have so much money to build. So I started with open field. But one of the things that I invested a lot in um, organic chemicals,
Um,
yeah, bio fungicides and insecticides, and
mm,
and also the inorganic treatment for the crop as well, because I believe in both organic and inorganic, because I don't think organic can do the job alone. Sometimes it can be slow. So
mm,
I invested a lot of money in that, and that was the way I made good money from my first circle open field production, and I built one greenhouse. One greenhouse was not enough. Then I did some bit of consulting and more construction. Then I built another. So some people go ahead to do wooden greenhouse, right?
mm,
That's
mm.
just the material, right? But other factors as the topography and every other thing still comes into play. All right.
Yeah.
There's some very good wood that you can use that you can compare with good galvanized steel as well. All right. But the most important thing is to get a good covering for your crop. Understand the principle. The principle is what is important, not really the
Yes.
structure. Right? Understand the
Mm,
principle, understand cross ventilation within the greenhouse. Don't go and build a very large, wide greenhouse. When wind comes from this direction, it cannot go out through this direction. It's going to stop in
mm,
the middle, and the middle crop will not do well. So there are a lot of factors to consider. So if you're a startup farmer, you want to start something, fine and good. Understand the principle. Whatever way you can build your greenhouse, do it. I've seen videos on YouTube that discusses, these people built the greenhouse from local materials, and at the end of the
yeah.
day, they will raise some money. The idea is understand the principle, use that principle to grow and raise good money, and get into a proper greenhouse setup to maximize profit. That's business growth.
Yeah, it is. So from what you've said, if you were to give like a, let's say like a price range, what would it be, like a minimal, even with like the open field thing you talked about, like a price range?
My
What should a
customers will
person
use it.
look
My
for?
customers will use it against me. They'll look at it when I tell them that price of things in the market have increased. Okay, you said it. So this is the cost. So this
No,
is
no,
it. Note.
I said price. I said price range. Like range, like okay, because even in Nigeria, we know that um you could have a pricing today. Today is Saturday,
Right.
22nd February. By tomorrow, or even max by Monday, right? The pricing might have like increased by maybe 20% or 30%,
Right.
right? So
Right.
you understand that because of inflation. But I'm just saying like a range. So someone listening on this call, like, okay, if they need to like sort of do the limited, edition of it, what should they have? to then to start out? Are we looking at 5 million, 15 million? Like what are we looking at?
For one greenhouse, you should be looking at a good price range would be there about 4.5 to 6 million naira. All
Okay.
right. And that depends on the size, by the way. All right.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay.
this we're talking about a size of 9 meters by 30 meters. All right. That's about 270 square meters, if I'm not mistaken. Okay.
Okay.
That's for a
Okay.
standard high tunnel greenhouse. Standard high tunnel greenhouse.
Okay. That's
Right.
like
So, what? For an open field, you want to
whatever to say is minimal, oh, minimal, so they don't come for you. Like mini, he said minimal. Like you're trusting the word
correct,
minimal.
correct.
Right.
Based on current exchange rates, this is what is
Okay.
attainable. Right. For an open
Okay.
field setup, right, you have to think about irrigation. Depends on the size as well. What size or what level and what size are you building? You should be looking at nothing less than 1,500,000 naira if you want to set up something very good. Open field, right? Something
Okay.
really good, all right, for plus your fertilizers, for a period for one circle. This should take you. This should take you.
Seems fair. Okay. Limited resources, guys. We've answered you. Seems fair. There's the 1.5 and there's the 4.5 to 6 million. So whatever bracket you fall into, if you're thinking about it, that's like what you should have to sort of think about starting
But I
at.
gave a disclaimer nonetheless. So that's
Yes,
that's
yes, yes,
yeah.
there is a disclaimer. Like you can
When we now want to have a conversation, let me speak like an Igbo man now. Chere, when we want to talk money, we discuss it later.
true, but at least they have something in mind to work towards. Like,
Right.
okay, this is okay. This what are like some of the common mistakes that you have seen beginners, have when they are setting up a greenhouse, and how can these things be sort of avoided?
Yeah. This part is a situation. Not understanding what you're getting into before getting into it. Not
Mm,
carrying out a feasibility study and understanding,
mm,
not creating a business plan, a business model for your farm. Not just
mm.
multinational companies that you create business models for. For your farm, you need to create a business model for it. I'm particularly proud of one of our clients who we built two greenhouses for a start, and
Wow.
he used those two greenhouses. He was living in Asaba. His farm was
Okay.
in Osarugue. So periodically he would come around to check on his farm, but he installed cameras on his farm. And
Mm,
those two greenhouses, he asked us to come build another two for him. That was at the back. Build another two for him. Did that. The last time we did business with him, he built four greenhouses and added to that. He has moved from Asaba now down to Warri. From Warri, he comes to his farm every time. He had a business.
mm, mm,
I just put it on pause or shut. I don't know what he did with that. But he moved to Warri now and he's 100% into the agricultural business. Because
mm.
he saw that it was profitable for him.
Yeah.
So one of the mistakes that beginners make is they don't carry out good feasibility study,
Mm,
create a business model for their farm, and sometimes they give, even in a greenhouse setup, you don't understand the technology. The other
mm,
problem is you don't engage agronomists. They feel that they can do it. It's agriculture now, we can do it by ourselves. No, it's not just to grow crop. No, it's not just to grow crop. It's to grow
mm,
healthy vegetables that is profitable.
yeah.
It's not just a matter of giving fertilizers to this crop. No, the fertilizers has to be precise. It has to be exactly what the crop wants for that particular day or for that particular week. So these are some of the mistakes they make. They give too much fertilizers, and with too much fertilizers comes with a lot of cost. We already understand the borders right now. They don't allow us to bring in. They don't allow people to bring in certain kinds of fertilizers, potassium nitrate, and all of that. It affects production. All right. People would say, like, let's use more organic methods to grow. But the truth of the matter is, I keep emphasizing this, right? Plants do not care about the organic or inorganic nature of their nutrients. What they care about is the ionic form of the elements they consume. All right.
Mm.
Plants don't know potassium nitrate. They don't care about calcium nitrate. What plants care about is calcium ion, potassium ion. This is the elemental form, the ionic form of those fertilizers that they consume. So whether
Mm.
organic or inorganic, they will consume them. The only issue is the soil, because I'm currently doing a master's in environmental planning and management, so I need to
Yeah.
speak to that. The only issue is the detrimental effect of some of the overuse of these fertilizers without caution on the soil structure. That's just.
Yeah.
But if you use it with caution, if you understand what you're giving to the crop, you'll be fine. You will be fine. Okay, so this is what I have to say to that.
Fantastic. Like every single person I act, like not every single, but every guest I've had on, and that as they speak about different areas of agriculture that they are expert in, one of the common thing heard people talk about, especially when we talk about challenges, is usually like a knowledge thing. It's usually like a consultation thing. It's usually like, oh, seek expert advice. But the typical average Nigerian, I'll YouTube it, I'll Google it, you know.
Let me tell you
And
something. Let me tell when I lived in Israel, I worked a bit in the R&D part there. And one of the things, I worked on the farms and I worked in the R&D facility. One of the key things I discovered there was the relationship between farmers and the research centers. In the
mm,
mornings, the owner of the farm will call for a meeting and like, the weather is going to be like this today. This is what the market is saying about bell peppers. The price is down today. The prices, they understand these details, right? This is not the best time to grow, so and this and
wow.
this. It will tell the supervisor that, okay, look, I understand this used to be our practice with bell peppers when we have to prune this way. Don't do like this again. Do like this. This is what they say. He always says this is what they say. The information is gotten from the R&D. When we started working at the R&D, I got to
Wow.
understand that they pass this information to their farmers. So our farmers in
Mm,
Nigeria, those of us that are already into the greenhouse technology use, and even for conventional agricultural practice, we need to engage with. Okay, another problem is how much R&D do we have in Nigeria? I wanted to say we need to engage with our R&D centers. How much of them do we have? This is now where we're advocating for government to create institutions like this. No, we have a
yeah.
lot of we have wealth of knowledge in Nigeria. We have a lot of professors, we have a lot of lecturers, and even students that are proficient in this field that can help our farmers get sufficient information. So we need to generally, our government needs to create more
I'm
R&D
thinking it's the
and put more
network.
money into
We should be
research.
back in no time.
Put more money into research, and our farmers should try as much as possible to make use of the avenues created by government.
Yeah, I solidly agree with you. The very first person I interviewed when I started out this podcast was, um, his name is Mr. Ademola. Uh, he has been an extension person for like agricultural extension person for like probably 3 decades. And my academic background, my first degree is agricultural economics. So I said to him like, I've never really seen like extension officers. Like, do they actually do stuff? Like, are they going to farmers? Are they getting feedback from farmers and then taking to in Nigeria? There's this place they call is it ADP or something? Something. It's like, do they engage those people? It's like, yeah, they just like, nah, I don't think so. I don't think so.
I don't think
It's
so.
that they do. Like sometimes they're able to also sort of get like new updates from farmers as to how a particular seedling is doing, if they need to sort of do research and stuff. But I think we do have those things, but it's not as much for agriculture. I think the only one, I won't say the only functional, but to the best of my knowledge, I might be wrong at this point, but it's NIIT in Ibadan.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's like the most prominent
Yeah,
one.
that's true.
But I think that's like the most prominent one. But I think like every state should have one. As long as there's a Ministry of Agriculture, something, something in that state. every state should sort of have one, and it should be in a location where people could sort
And
of reach
access
out.
it. Right.
Yeah, I can reach to it. But anyways, we are hopeful for the best.
Right. Very soon.
Yeah. My next question is, how much capital? I think we've talked about this. I think we've talked about this. It was about capital, but I think we've also talked about this. So, how can greenhouse farmer ensure their farming practices are environmental friendly and sustainable?
How can greenhouse farm ensure their environmental practices are environmental friendly and sustainable? We need
Yeah.
to um, um, okay. One of the challenges we have with um, with agriculture when it comes to the environment is the use of inorganic pesticides and fungicides. Right. Some of them
Mm,
are not. They are not like I think there was one of them that we used to use some years ago for soil sterilization. Right.
mm-hmm.
I can't remember the name right now, but it was banned. But people still found a way to get it, black market and all of that. It does very good work. That was some years ago, anyways. It does very good work with the soil. It helps to take care of any pest or disease in the soil or microbial load in the soil that would cause that could be detrimental to plant health.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was detrimental to the environment. It wasn't good at all, but people still found a way to do
Mm,
it. I think farmers just need to check for some chemicals that they because I can't ask any farmer to stop using inorganic sources. For some
yeah.
chemicals, I use it. We need to read labels a lot, and we need to we need to be up to date with some of these chemicals to know if they are permitted to be used or not. It is my wish that in Nigeria we get to have an agency like they have in the US here. It's the EPA. I work with them, the Environmental Protection Agency. Um, these are agencies that check activities like this, right, to ensure that facilities are compliant, right? I'm praying that we have institutions like that, agencies like that that can be set up. But going beyond that, farmers to try as much as possible to read labels to see, okay, look, these are when we're using these chemicals like this, these are things that we need to take note of. These are things we need to take note of that could cause health hazards to our staff. Try as
Yeah.
much as possible to ensure that your staff are covered up when they are spraying and when they are doing any activity that requires use of chemicals, get those marks and all of that. Okay. I know that for my staff to work on the farm, when they're spraying, they need to cover themselves with nose mask. Everybody, whether it's spraying or not, for that period of time, at least for 1 hour, cover up and wear the protective gear. All right. And when the staff finish working, doing the spraying, we try as much as possible. They say milk is really good for this. We give milk, takes milk and relax for about 1 hour before you get into work again. All right. That 1 hour, somebody will say, is it not money that is good? You're wasting money, right? Your money. Yeah, it makes the staff is going to be happier, healthier. My crops will do better, right? Not that when my staff finish working, doing the spraying, goes back to work immediately, because those machines can vibrate your entire body and all of that.
Yeah.
So it'll be so a big part. So yeah, um, read labels to check what are some of the things you need to take note of. All right, and ensure that your SOPs on your farm are compliant with environmental protection, rights. And that's I don't know if we really have that in Nigeria, right? Environmental protection rights. It's something that if we don't, then it's something that government needs to look into.
Hmm. I think I totally agree with you. I think we might have, I think so. But the thing most times is the compliance with those kinds of things. We might have them, compliance or enforcing it. Usually where the issues are most times in our system. But I think we might have, but I'm
Okay.
not certain. I
Okay.
think so. Yeah. So, what innovations or technology can you say would help improve productivity and sustainability within the greenhouse setup?
Well, some of the innovations that could do that would be some of the technologies that could do that was when I started in the beginning. I said use of flow meters to check Would you excuse me 1 minute? I need to connect my laptop. I have my charger here, if that's okay.
Okay, fine. Totally
Thank-
fine.
Okay, so thank you. So one of the, just like I said in the very beginning, would be the use of flow meters to
Okay.
help control the amount of water that your plant is taking. Regulates it, because too much of water would choke the roots, right? And the plant will start to die. And another one would be the data logger for temperature and humidity control. This helps you understand, look, when you need to give, I beg your pardon, helps you understand when you need to give water to the plants and when you don't need to give water to the plants. Helps you understand the temperatures as well on a daily basis. And you need to computerize or keep data of this information on a daily basis. You need to check this information and store them. This is going to help you in subsequent circles, knowing that, okay, at this time of year, we have temperatures like this. At this time of year, we have humidities like this, even if it's not 100%. But I mean, you have an idea what your expectations are. All right. Other technologies would be in the greenhouse would be the use of sprinklers. All right. If you're not going to use the shade net, you can use sprinklers on the top to control the amount of temperature, the temperature inside the greenhouse at certain times of year as well. Other things would be there's a tool called tensiometer that would help you. You put it close to the plant. It helps you understand the water amount you have in
Yeah.
the, right. It helps you understand the water
Yeah. I
amount.
think I've seen you do that.
Yeah, you've got other tools like the pH and the EC meter. Helps you understand when you're, for instance, now you're having crop, you're giving water, you're giving fertilizers and all of the basic nutrient that the plant would require to grow, and you observe that your plants are still not doing well. Maybe you're having coily leaves and all of that, right? Or you're having yellowish leaves. You can come with your tool, your pH and your EC meter, and check, okay, look, I want to understand what the soil is saying, because everything starts from the soil, right? The root zone is very important. So you check, am I having too much salt? If I'm having too much salt, it means I need to give CaCO3, all right? If that's not the case, then what is the problem? Do I need to flush the soil? One of the ways we flush soil is just blast with water for the whole day. Just blast it with water. That reduces the amount of salt you have in the soil as well. So these are different ways on how to, when these things are properly done, you see your productivity will be good. But when you don't use technology to understand, there's even, when I was taking a particular crop in Israel, it's called plant signaling. We use drones, right? Assess stress levels on the crop, because naturally, before the stress starts showing in the crop, you wouldn't know the crops are as healthy as possible until you start seeing physical symptoms, right? So we use drones to check stress sensors, stress signals, right, on the plant body. The drone flies across the plant, top of the plant. It has sensors that will pick stresses in the plant, and put it on the computer for and say, look, this is going to be a problem very soon in the plant body. All right, this plant is lacking this plant is lacking this. You need to take care of it. There are tons of technologies you can use to increase productivity, but the only concern still is this. Whatever I'm saying right now is for those people that can afford to get them. For people that can afford to get them, it's a situation for them. All right. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's just the way it is right now. But I'm hoping the advocacy would be for government to create institutions, research, R&D. For instance, they have tools like this that farmers can pay a token or do what's called subscribe to using at specific times, right? When you need to check this thing, you subscribe for it, you request for it, they bring it to your farm and they run it for you, you check, right? And like the problem is you quickly treat it. All right. So that's going to be, in the long run, that's going to be a very good way for farmers that do not have enough resources to afford these things on their own. But for farms and for farmers who have sufficient resources to afford these technologies, it's the way to go. That's one of the best ways to increase, maximize productivity, and reduce waste.
Wow. I actually didn't know that plants could be stressed. I thought it was just humans that could be stressed. Like plants can be
There are
stressed.
living
Like what's
things.
stressing them? Like you're on the soil, you're giving water, you're giving nutrients,
The,
you're
the,
giving
but
sun,
wait, the temperature can
why
be
are you
stressed for them.
stressed?
The temperature can be stressed for them. If the temperature is not optimal for their growth, if it's more than what they're expected to grow, for instance, if you have a crop that requires between 28 to 32 degrees Celsius to grow, and you're having temperatures inside the greenhouse that is like, or maybe even in the open field, the temperature's
Mm,
like 45 degrees or
mm,
38 degrees, that's the problem for the crop. If it
too
creates
much,
stress for
yeah.
them, it means that they need to carry out more. Their evapotranspiration rate is higher. It means they need to
Yeah.
take more water from the soil as well to do so. That's a lot of stress for them. And
Mm,
farmers will want to give, okay, this is the amount of water, especially for those farmers that do not know the amount of water to give to crops at specific times of year. All right, during the rainy season, you need to give slightly less water to the crop because there's no much evapotranspiration, right? And
mhm.
we don't have a lot of evaporation as well. So the waters will just remain in the soil there and cause the root to choke and the plant starts to die. So there are a lot of technicalities when considering agriculture, right? During the rainy season as well, or the dry season, or the dry season, there's an amount of there's a quantity. It's not we don't exactly give the same quantity of fertilizers or water to the plant itself. All right. Some people will feel that okay, this is the quantity of fertilizer this plant needs, and that's it. But no, during the rains, plants take fertilizers and water differently, and during the dry season, plant takes fertilizers and water differently as well.
That's, I see why you guys are called the plant doctors. So it's
Thank you.
it's it's a it's I think it's this is the first time I'm seeing plants in a very delicate light. Typically I only think about like animals, like okay, but plants I never
Yeah, it's
thought
virtually
about
the
that.
same.
Yeah. Okay. So for in your own experience and based off of your expertise,
Mhm.
what would you say are like the most profitable crops to grow in greenhouses, especially in Nigeria or in the African market?
Well, that's a simple question. The top of the chart for me would be bell peppers, right? The top of the chart for me
Oh
for greenhouse
wow.
would be bell peppers because it's a crop you can grow year round and people consume them year round. All right.
Okay.
Um, the next would be okay. Another reason why bell peppers because they are big fruits, right? So just
Sure.
about 6 bell peppers or 5 to 6 bell peppers will give you 1 kg. And the
Yeah.
price right now in the market is awesome. It's more or less about some people sell as much as 6 to 7 thousand naira per kg. That's a lot of money comparing this to some years ago, where bell pepper was about 1,005 to 2,500 naira. We're talking about colored bell peppers. The greens
Yeah.
right now is around 4,500 to 5,000 naira. So you see, and in one greenhouse of about 9 meters to 30 meters long, we're talking nothing less than conservatively, we're thinking about 1,500 kgs, which is 1.5 tons. So if you multiply that by, if all things being equal and good, if you multiply that by 6,000 naira on an average, you can imagine how much you're making from one of your structures. Huh?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
rest of the table would be habanero peppers, right?
Mm.
Is people will call it atarodo. It's
Yeah.
sought after. The Oyinbo market right now, I think they from market analysis, Oyinbo market right now requires about on a weekly basis 12 tons of habanero peppers. 12 tons. Even the biggest farm at the time I worked with them, I don't know if they still hold that title. The biggest farm, which is the West Hosa farm, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking on the greenhouse scale. The biggest
Sure.
farm um, was not producing 12 tons because habanero was not the only vegetable assortment they were producing. They were not
Yeah.
producing 12 tons in 1 week. So
Mm.
not even meet the demand for one market. That's just the Lagos market, right? And the price for habaneros is really nice. Okay, I know this information, right? First because I'm in the business, and secondly because my wife runs a distribution outlet as well, a distribution company, Market Price Fresh Produce. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're not even able to meet the demand of the Igbo market. So you see, habanero is another very good produce, cash crop, and it's also, both crops have exportable value.
Mm.
It has exportable value. Tomato will fall on third place for me because as much as in the greenhouse setup you can grow tomato year round, tomato is
Yeah.
very sensitive.
Okay.
Very sensitive because of the nature of the leaves and also the stem. If you touch tomato leaves and stem now, you will see when you touch it, it's greenish somehow. So
Yeah.
there's moisture in it, and
Yeah.
that moisture can come pest disease. Can come a lot of disease. Uh,
Mm.
they have a lot of germs and microorganisms in the atmosphere, and when they come in contact with that moisture and it favors their growth, they will cause a problem there for the tomato. So it's
Yes,
very
just
sensitive
breed on
to
it.
grow. Very, very sensitive to grow. So these three crops, right, should be what a client would, a farmer operating in the greenhouse setup would want to try out first, just to
Mm.
gain back your money, your investment capital, right? Then you can start doing experiments with other crops. But
Mm.
that being said, we should also know that you can also grow tree crops in the greenhouse. Take, for example, you can grow pawpaw in the greenhouse. Yes, you can
Wow.
grow pawpaw in the greenhouse, uh, and a few other tree crops in the greenhouse. The reason for the kind of pawpaw you can grow and other crops you can grow in the greenhouse are the dwarf varieties. All right,
Okay.
that varieties for tree crops, so you can comfortably grow them. I was in Abuja. I think there is a farm in Abuja that grows pawpaw inside the greenhouse. I was there, I think
Wow.
2018, 2019. I visited that farm. It's a pretty nice place. It's an Israeli guy that runs the place, an Israeli guy, Ruben Cohen, pretty awesome guy. He has been in Nigeria for a very long time. He knows the agricultural business a lot. One of my mentors.
Wow, that's really good. I was good. I was also expecting probably you would say maybe cucumber or cabbage or those kinds of
Uh,
things. Wow.
cucumbers has its um uh, okay. So for cucumber, right, the price in the market is not the very best, and exportable value is minimal for me,
Mm.
because it's a crop that, for cucumber, the kind of cucumber you would even want to grow to make some money would be the baby cucumbers, because they cost good amount of money, and they produce every almost every day. You harvest cucumbers almost every day. Yeah, because
Wow.
you harvest them you harvest the baby type, right? The monies in the market is not the very best for the last few years. I mean, it's about between $300 to $500 per 300 to 500 naira per kg. 300
Yeah.
naira per kg. That's what the price is. Maybe now it should be about 700 naira. But comparing that to bell peppers tomato, and
Yeah.
tomato is around 1.5 in the market, or
Yeah.
2,000. Comparing that to bell peppers, habaneros, and tomato, it's not a match at all.
So is there because I okay I know that one of the things that traditional farmers sort of complain about as regards agricultural produce is like the shelf life.
Mhm.
So is there a distinctive thing that also happens with the kind of crops that are grown within the greenhouse that okay they have like a longer shelf life? Is there
Yes.
any okay
It's not unique, but
okay
it's worth knowing. And because conventional agricultural practices don't take note of these things,
yeah
the produce starts to go bad quickly. And that is the one thing would be the variety, but that's not a major factor. The major
okay
factor is the nutrition of the crop. All right. Calcium is well known to increase shelf life of crops. All right. Calcium is well known
um,
for that. So you need to give a balanced formulation for
mm,
you to get the very best results. All right. When your calcium amount is good, your crop will have good shelf life. It will shelf life about 2 to 3 weeks or thereabout. All right, you should have that. Especially, for tomato. When I was the deputy general manager of the Taraba vegetables in Taraba State, that was when I just got back from Israel. We our crops we had crops that were staying on the shelf for about 2.5 weeks. 2.5 weeks. We're talking about tomato and bell peppers. Okay, cucumber was more or less a week and 3 days, or maybe 2 weeks or thereabouts. So we had crops like that. But for my own company, Market Price Vegetables, it has been awesome all the way. Because of course you already know practice makes perfect, right? So crops are always 2 weeks and above. This is the shelf life we get for our vegetables. High quality vegetables, big size, bell pepper, fresh, clean, and shining. I'm emphasizing that a lot, huh? But basically, these are some of the nutrition is a key factor, right? When for you to get the very, very best shelf life.
Wow. So I think that one of the key points I'm also getting from this conversation is just the way that people, let's say farmers that are engaged in animal husbandry, are very keen about like the feeds and the kinds of feed that they give to their animals to ensure that okay, their immunity is strong, they are doing well, they are bulky. So the
Right.
same thing applies to crops, like the formulation of the nutrients or the supplements that they are giving plays a vital role in the shelf life of the produce.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Oh wow. Okay. I've learned something today. Thank you
Thank you.
for letting us know that. So how can farmers sort of secure like a steady market to ensure that their greenhouse produce is sold profitably? I know that you mentioned like okay, there are some products that um at the time you were in Nigeria, people were not able to sort of meet up with the demands. But in recent times, a lot more people are coming into the greenhouse space. So, but how can farmers secure steady market and just ensure that their greenhouse produce is sold out profitably, not just sold, but profitably?
Okay. So we're talking about farmers generally, right? We're not talking about greenhouse farmers but
Uh,
generally.
I would say greenhouse farmers, not general farmers. Greenhouse
Okay,
farmers.
so we must know that during the when is the what's it called now? Is it the when is the dry season, when we have produce coming from the northern region to other parts of the country, prices of vegetables is on the low. Because
Okay.
especially for tomato, because the input that conventional agricultural practices and growers uses, the input that they use rather, is not as much as that of the greenhouse. Because for the greenhouse, you have to calculate the depreciation on your structure. All right, you got to calculate because you're giving irrigation almost every day and everything. You're paying salaries to staff and all. You calculate all of this. That is reflected on the total price that you're selling your vegetables. So if you're comparing this for that time, right, you'll be at a loss. Okay, so you need to be strategic on the market, the target audience you want. You can't meet the entirety of Nigerian people because you will lose money. That's
Yeah.
fact. That's facts. Because I know when I started, it was not a bed of roses for me. I grew tomato, and they were pricing my tomato 250. Tomato I want to sell for 1,000 naira. Yes, clean, clean tomato like this, eh? But you know what the
Fresh
market?
juicy tomatoes.
The market regulates the price for you. You know what the market tells you at the end of the day? Now, still we won't take and make now. No, be still you go enter. That's what they say. Whether they buy this set of tomato that is not fresh and clean, or they buy the tomato from my farm from market price vegetable or not, everything na stomach e go enter stew. That's what they say. All right. So you have to focus on the group of people for specific crop. You need to focus on the group of people that can buy it. All right. Now the target, we're talking about markets now. If you decide as a
Yeah.
farmer to want to sell, if you decide as a farmer to want to sell your vegetables alone by yourself, right? I feel for me it's more strenuous. You make
Yeah.
all the money fine and good, right? But you stand the chance of incurring some losses from the vegetables. You're going to carry some costs. All right.
Yeah.
you are likely going to be taking money from the farm and putting in the distribution, right? So your farm is losing to some certain extent. So you might eventually sell some of them off. Some of them will go bad while you're looking for a market. Okay. One of the best ways that I always employ farmer to use is use a distribution channel. Know how much you want to make. People will say that distribution companies make the most money from farmers are soft. Know what you want to make from your business. Understand that, look, this is my production cost. This is how much profit I want to make. If it's a 20% or 30% or a 50% margin, profit margin you want to put, if that's what you want, fine. Provided you get a distribution company that can buy it for that price and they sell on their own. So your own case, for my own company, right? I sell my produce to market price fresh produce, which like I told you by my wife. Business is business. Market price vegetables sells to market price fresh produce. Market price fresh produce deals with the storage and everything. I don't care how they do it. They deal with all the stuff. But as I'm selling to you, you're giving me my money. That's it. So if you want to, because what they are specific for, I beg your pardon, is creating markets. They know how to market. I know how to produce. That's the thing about agriculture. True agriculture is understanding your niche. Your niche is to produce. The distribution part of agriculture, and there's a consumption part of agriculture. The consumption are these companies that use these raw materials to produce other stuff, or consumers like ourselves, right? The production part are the agronomists that grow the vegetables or the farmers. The distribution are distribution companies. How much you want to make is none of my business. Provided I've made my profits and I've gotten my production cost back, then I'm good to go. As time goes on, if fertilizer price increase, I will slightly increase my price. If I don't need to increase my price because my profit margin is still good, then I'll leave it at that. So that's just business. So the farmers can sell by themselves, right? Or one of the best ways to do that, if you want to sell by yourself, once you transplant or before you transplant, starts to create markets. Tell them 3 months, I'm going to have this vegetable available. One of the company that I ran in Taraba, one of the things we did was when we transplanted, I got staff to travel, the marketing team. I told them, got to travel to Lagos, go to ShopRite, go to this place, and tell when ShopRite was still existing. Tell them that, look, not market price, Taraba vegetables will be having so and so time. We want you guys to patronize us. We know you guys have been getting this from this, but this is the value we're bringing to you guys. Quality, consistency, and all of this stuff. We gave them the market, and that's the way it was done. So start early, but if you're giving to a distribution company, don't worry so much. Get your contract signed with the distribution company. When it's time, just try your best to be consistent with the distribution company so you're not in violation of, you're not the breach of your contract.
Yeah, wow. Whew, interesting. It's been just a journey. So as much as there is the agronomy part in terms of greenhouse, there's also the agro business in itself. So every farmer needs to, you might not understand in details, but you also need to sort of understand a bit about marketing, a bit about
Right.
knowing your target audience, a bit about pricing,
Right.
a bit about cost of production, operation cost. Because most people just think like, okay, I've produced. Oh, okay, I've sold. But not understanding the mechanics around in terms of running it as a business can also be an issue. So my next question to you, although you've touched a bit about it, but I would still like you to sort of delve in deeper. What were like the major challenges you faced in your greenhouse farming journey, and how were you able to like overcome them?
Okay, so the major challenge for me was see, my voice is now low now because it cost me that time. The major challenge the major challenge was getting the inputs that I wanted and the time that I wanted or want them. The first was my fertilizers, because there was people could know, vendors no longer were able to bring in certain groups of fertilizers, which were,
Were they imported?
yeah.
Oh,
Okay, I'll talk about that now.
wow. We don't have those stuff
All of my
like.
fertilizers were imported because I could not trust unfortunately, I could not trust what was attainable in Nigeria. I'll give you an example. When I was in Taraba, we got a fertilizer, a group of fertilizer. We got one particular fertilizer, and we were like, okay, let's try the brand, local brand, inorganic fertilizers. And we did. First, we are doing precision agriculture here. I need to take it to the lab to test. If they tell, because they told me it was, for instance, they told me it was 15, 15, 15. Nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, 15, 15, 15. So I need to check, is it exactly the 15% that you said it is here that is here for this, this, and this? I took it to the lab, they checked it. The numbers were not correct. So if I use that to feed my crops, I'm going to be having deficiencies.
Yeah.
So I just started importing everything. There are vendors that does the imports, right? There are shops that sells these things. You buy from them. So when we had that problem of when federal government said that you can no longer bring this group of fertilizers into the country, especially I think potassium nitrate, I think it was being used for some other thing aside agriculture. It became a problem. I don't know how some people managed to bring these things in. I don't know how they did, or maybe they had old stock. For those of them that probably had old stock, they increased the price.
Yeah.
Right now, to buy these fertilizers, calcium nitrate was about 32,000 naira about 2 years ago. Calcium nitrate is 100 and something thousand, 97,000 naira now. You can imagine that's like more than 100% markup.
Yeah.
So how am I going to sell my produce? So it was a big challenge because we couldn't get the fertilizers that we needed to run our operations, and that was a big challenge for us. But that in itself creates opportunities for you to explore new avenues, for you to research and get new avenues. The combination therapy helped out. It was more like a combination of both organic and inorganic sources to give us what we want. And the pesticides and fungicides were not doing, some of them they don't do the work that they ought to do. Some of these pests, I don't know if we produce any here, produce any in Nigeria, but for those of them that were coming from the international communities, they are good, very effective. The efficacy is awesome in the international community because, it's their weather pattern that they use to determine or to
produce it. Yeah.
Bringing them to Nigeria and administering them to our crops, the weather pattern is not the same. So the level of effectiveness is not 100% as it's supposed to be in the international community. So we find ourselves using more money getting more money to buy more of these things just to use to combat the issues that we're the challenges that we face. All right. The third thing will be market. The market most times controls the price. I think I mentioned before, they'll tell you that the price for bell pepper is sold at 2,005. You tell them you want to sell for this amount because you're not a bad person for wanting to make money. You want to make money, but at the same time to be fair. Okay, even as that is the case, the market tells you that this is the price everybody is selling, or this is the price we're going to buy. You find yourself being rejected by a lot of that was at the beginning. You find yourself being rejected by a lot of markets because you are not willing to compromise on your price. At the end of the day, you just have to bring down your price, get back the money that you used to the production costs, and you don't make any little or nothing profit at the end. So, which was a huge challenge for us as well.
Wow. Just listening to this conversation today, I think that I feel like there's an opportunity in terms of in the area of policy, in the area of also production in terms of the inputs, some of the inputs being used. Because when you just said like, oh, okay, those fertilizers that come from the international community, they are not as effective in our own climate because they were made for their own, system and their own climate. I think that that's the work that our biochemists or our soil microbiologists or they should be doing.
But they want to do it, but they don't have the facilities that are involved. Some of them would probably, I think, I'm speaking for them right now. A lot of them don't have jobs. They have the know-how, but they don't have the technology to get to do these things. Some of them want to set up, but lending institutions do not trust that it's something that is viable enough for them to want to give money into, because it's not something that has been done before. It's not something that has been done before. And for some people that has the money and probably understand the know-how, they don't want to get into it because they feel that the agricultural market, production market, and the utilization market for such is not a lot, because it's a whole factory. To producing those kind of fertilizers and chemicals, it's a food factory, it's a lot of money. How much of these will be consumed by the Nigerian market on a yearly basis for them to say, yeah, they are profitable? So this is another concern. That's why the advocacy is let more people get into this, get into agriculture. When we get into agriculture, we'll have people that come up to establish these businesses. It's going to be a cycle of money making.
There is like what's his name? The one of the speakers I interviewed 2 episodes back, Temi Tokbe. He's the co-founder of Farm Square. I think they're situated. Their headquarters is in Ibadan. They typically just run like an e-commerce platform that connects like farmers with inputs, right? And he told me that he just said like that last year their numbers were like around 600 million.
So what again?
Last 600 million naira.
That was
That was their number last year.
Oh, that was their number.
Yeah, last year 600 million.
Really
So
awesome.
they're not even producing. It's just like they're just like connectors, right? And so just hearing you say this, I think there's a lot that we need to do around advocacy and reorientation. It's a viable thing. It's a viable thing.
Right.
It is a viable thing. And I think that a lot of probably the challenge they might encounter might be the distrust, just like you mentioned, like the Nigerian brand you guys had initially purchased when you were working at the Taraba vegetable thing, and you had gone to the lab. What the constituent was of that particular input was not what was, so I think that might be the challenge, to trust. But if people are able to be credible in terms of, okay, this is what we're producing and this is it's exact, over time people will get to patronize, and that also still helps us, creation of jobs and a lot of things.
Correct.
There's a lot of every single, if this thing happens to me all the time. Every single time I interview somebody and they say something in my head, I'm like, there's opportunity here.
There are opportunities and there are jobs.
Oh
There are
my God.
many jobs. Many,
Oh my God.
but we need a lot of people to get into it, before we can start seeing significant, impact.
Yes,
That's
I
just
truly believe that. I truly believe that.
That's just
So
it.
we've gotten to the final part of this interview today, and
Oh,
my
wow.
final question, yeah, my final question to you is, for someone listening on this call right now, and people that will watch it the replay subsequent time, like what's like your advice, that you would give to them for any person that is sort of hesitant about greenhouse farming? Is it profitable? Should they go into it? They're just sort of dilly-dally on the fence. What would you
Mhm.
say to them?
Okay, very first thing is, no matter how interesting, okay, this might be weird to say, no matter how interesting and sweet and good looking a produce is, that should never
Yeah.
be your motivating factor to get into agriculture. Because I've seen a lot of,
Wow.
I've seen people who are like,
Wow.
I was just seeing your stuff. It was so beautiful. How much for one greenhouse? You now build, you cannot manage it. You understand? So that should
Yeah.
never be a motivating factor. Even if that is that's okay, that should never be the major motivating factor. The major
Yeah.
motivating factor for you to get into agriculture will be, one, the need to contribute your quota to global food security concerns. That's the first.
Yeah.
Secondly, okay, I've spoken about the need. Secondly, having a clear understanding of what the business is all about, a good, understanding of what the business is all about, right? Of course,
Yeah.
appreciation for the art is also another thing.
Yeah.
Secondly, a second advice I'll give would be, um, um, I understand that money can be a constraint in many things.
Yeah.
Start small. Start from
Mm.
start small. I know motivational speakers will speak and say, I started my business with 10 naira. I bought one bag
Yeah.
of water. I was selling it Uju Elegba Bridge. Leave that one. What I'm telling you is, what I'm telling you is, you have some amount of money, but you feel it's not enough. Reduce your projection span. Yeah, you already have everybody a good business thinker, and the person wants to create an impact. Always think big. Thinks big. But
Mm.
where you are right now, you can see yourself in that place. Carry
Yeah.
this money you have, use it to start small. Minimize you minimize your start area for now. Start
Yeah.
small, then grow your business. All right.
Okay.
Don't think that the money is too small for you. Okay, you want to add more money to it. You are going to eat that money. You
Mm.
are going to spend money, because I know I'm saying this for because the goal for me was to have greenhouses. I
Wow.
started with open field. I don't know why I started with open field.
Yes, 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 yes.
I started with open at Benson Dawson University. I paid for
Yeah.
the land. I paid for the
Mm.
land, paid for everything. But I started small. And after one product, I know what you're doing. After one production circle, right? We built our first greenhouse from money we used to from the harvest.
Yeah.
Then the monies we got from consultation and construction as well. We started building more greenhouses. Then the production itself started taking care of everything. You know,
Mm.
today we have 8 greenhouses with the potential. Like I think you already mentioned from the beginning that we already got another land area where
Oh,
we want to
nice.
build, more greenhouses, fish pond and poultry pen. We're going bed, well, pens rather. We're going integrated this time around. So
Yes.
start small, and when you know what you're doing, trust me, you're going to make good money. There is always a market. People always want to eat food. There is,
Yes.
trust me, just be rest assured that whatever you're growing, provided is good for consumption, you are going to sell it. That's it.
Mm.
The last thing
Wow.
is, the last thing is, I am an ambassador for
Yes.
sustainable development.
Yes.
So what I can say is, you already know that by mid-century we're going to be having a concern. 9 billion people is a lot of people, and
Yeah.
30%. We're going to require 70% increase in food production to meet with the 30% increase in population size from now till then. What are we doing
Mm.
about it? I'm doing the little that I can to. I'm doing the little that I can to help out, and I'm
Yeah.
making money from it. You too can. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. I like how you sort of give an aerial perspective in terms of the advice. Like, okay, do the greenhouse, but understand management as well. Know that there's a market for it. Because I think the fear that most people have sometimes is that if I produce it, like who is going to come for it? But just having being acquainted with the statistics, like you highlighted right now, there's a market for it. And I
Okay.
think that people can actually go an entire month without sort of maybe purchasing like a new outfit or something. But nobody goes an entire 7 days without eating unless they are fasting. But at that
Exactly.
point, you still drink water. So there's a demand, there's a demand for it. And I think that when we started out this conversation, I said with the arable lands that we have in this country, human capacity that we also have, expertise and things. I don't think we have any business with food insecurity. I don't think. I don't
You know,
think we should.
one of the things that they used to deceive, I don't even know who, but they always say they used to deceive us, especially in Edo State, is that Edo State soil is not good for tomato. We grew tomato in 2000,
Mm,
tomato 2021 in Edo State and 2022 in Edo State. And the tomato grew beautifully well. You can check out our Instagram, right, at
yeah,
Market at MPV Farms. The tomato grew very nicely. Beef and plum tomato alike was very beautiful. And we sold to the market, even, better than some of the varieties you get from some other locations. They were very nice. So, look, to my people in Edo State, anything is possible.
yeah,
The concept and idea that certain things cannot grow in Edo State is fallacy. That's why we
yeah.
have technologies like this that we can explore to grow whatever we want, produce our own food, and be a self-sufficient people. Thank you. Is it like
I
a self-
totally,
oh,
I,
go for
to, I, to, I totally agree with you. And I also think that maybe that information about tomatoes not doing well in Edo State, it might have been an issue with maybe this an infestation in the soil. Typically most people might not even treat their soil because you had mentioned, fungicides and things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So if your soil is already infested and you did not treat, and even when you treated, the chemical you used was so harsh, you did not wait for it to like maybe or flush out or something, and you just planted, your plants died off. You feel like, oh, okay, it's not good, without having an understanding that okay, you could have done better if you understood certain things. So I seen your own products, because I'm not saying theory. I've been to market price vegetable market. I've been to their farm. I've been to their greenhouses, like greenhouses. Yes, I've been there, and I've seen their tomatoes, bell pepper. Like that particular day I went there, there's so many bell pepper in the crates, plumpy, beautiful looking, fresh,
Yeah.
juicy.
Yeah.
And the tomatoes were really doing well, clean,
Yeah.
just like he said. He's not saying what's not true. Just like he said, clean vegetables, plumpy. And I
Yeah.
like the fact that he also mentioned that the shelf life was not an issue. So now I understand why even in the market there was a time where Wellosa farm pepper in the market was like the ish. Like if you go to like the regular market, the people say, "Ah, is
Mhm.
this that pepper from the farm?" Because
We
people
put
felt like,
in, we put in a
it
lot of
was
we put in a lot of technology to that. There was a lot of
yeah, it was
it
spicy.
was
It
really hot.
was
The flavor was
full.
different.
The taste was
It was different.
different, and also it could last longer. It was like even if you don't, if you just buy, if you just one bowl, you just put it.
Put it inside.
You
It's
it's
very hot.
already good to go.
Exactly.
It's already good to go. It can stay in your house 2 weeks. Like it was just selling itself. It was just selling itself. So guys, this is just to let you know that it is a viable investment, and like we said
Yes.
earlier, you could start out from where you are, even though you have like big dreams to expand. And he gave an example of one of his clients that started out pretty much small, but over time, I think the person has maybe like 5 or 6 greenhouses now.
We're
So,
competing. We're competing now. We're competing now.
yeah, so start from where you are with what you have. And so, Mr. Ojo Peter Endurance, thank you so much for your
Thank you
time
for having me.
today. It's been an amazing, interaction and engagement with you. And I think that we should definitely. I like how we are from the same states. We should do something in this our states, Mr. Ojo. It's not just
We're
talk.
bringing it
We
back
should
now.
do
We're
what we
bringing it
can
back. Don't
do.
worry. Oh.
We
We're,
should do talk and do
we're
in this.
bringing it back. As a matter of fact, before we end the show,
Yeah.
one of the things, the last time I came down to Nigeria just a few months ago, I visited the IDP camp in those
Okay.
states. I can't remember the exact name now where it's located, but I visited the one there. I think, yeah. And I had conversation with the management and like, look, it's best that our children starts to we want to set up some greenhouses there for them.
Oh,
Then
nice.
their parents will teach their parents will teach the children how to grow, because
Hmm.
I feel that these kids they have been cheated from society. They have
Yeah.
cognitive ability, they can contribute to society. We don't want a
Yeah.
situation where they grow up and they do not find any other thing to do. They don't have any hand skill, and the next thing
Yeah.
is to be a menace. So one of the things we're trying to do is when we do that, their parents will teach them how to grow vegetables. They grow vegetables, produce for their camp, make money for the camp, and I mean, eat from there. And the excess of it they sell out, make money for the camp, and contribute to global food security concerns in Edo State itself. And it's
Yes.
going to be something global when we try to explore. I mean, I know it's a step in the right direction. It's something that Market Price Vegetable is doing. All right, with our NGO, in collaboration with our NGO Save the Planet Initiative as well. So that's some of the things we're coming up with. So don't worry so much. We're bringing it back home. Everything we're doing here, we're bringing it back home. All right, to ensure that our people, not just at those states, Nigerians get to benefit. All right, the
Yeah.
fruit of our labor. Uh, we
Yeah.
are we are the children of tomorrow. We will take care of our parents, and our children after that will take care of us.
Yes, yes, yes.
Huh?
Thank you so much for sharing with us today. It's been an insightful conversation, and I hope that when next we call for you, you would also respond to us, just as you have been gracious to do today.
I'll be glad to do that. It's always a fun
Fantastic.
time to talk with you, though.